right, let's get this meeting started. This is the October 17th, 2022 Historic Preservation Meeting. Kelly, can you please read the roll?
Alderperson Hanson.
Here.
Gene Hackbarth.
Here.
Mike Fleck.
Here.
Noah Tetzner.
Here.
Adam Tureth.
Here.
Joanne Vomastik-Muka.
Here.
All right, thank you. Item 2, approval of the minutes of the August 15th, 2022 Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
I move approval as printed.
Move to approve as printed?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes as printed here in the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Gene, seconded by Mike to approve the minutes from the August 15th, 2022 meeting. Any questions or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, welcoming of new member Noah Tetzner to the Historic Preservation. Oh, I'm sorry. Good catch. All right, backing up a little bit. Spare you for a minute here. Item 3, public comments upon matters not on the agenda. Please note that comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Historic Preservation Commission. Is there anybody virtually or in person? Don't see anyone in the audience, but anyone virtually who would like to speak on anything not on the agenda?
Look at that crowd.
All right. We're very popular. Going once. Again, anyone virtually or in the audience who I can't see would like to speak on something not on the agenda? And last time, anyone would like to speak on something not on the agenda? It appears not, so let's move on. All right, now we get to item 4. Welcoming of new member Noah Tetzner to the Historic Preservation Commission. So as many of you know, we had 2 resignations recently, and one of those spots have been filled by Noah Tetzner. He was appointed by Mayor Boyd and confirmed by the full city council. So I'm just going to turn over to Noah to give some brief remarks about his background and why he was interested in joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jonathan. I'm so excited to be here. I love history. It's actually what I do for a living. I own a company, and we produce podcasts, and sort of our flagship shows are 4 of the top 200 historical podcasts in the country. And you know, I've been volunteering at a local level here in, the De Pere area for many years through Heritage Hill and some other organizations as well. So, I saw that there was a need, and I was happy to fill it. So thank you.
Awesome.
So glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Yes, thanks so much. Mm-hmm. And definitely check out his podcast sometime. So wherever you get your podcast from. All right. Number 5. Consideration and possible action to locally designate the George E. Bowman House, the house only, at 933 Oakdale Ave as a local historic structure. I'm going to turn over to Peter, and then we'll also have a presentation from the petitioner who is also on the HBC, Gene Hackbarth. So Peter.
Thank you. Let me just skip to this point. What I put up on the screen right now is a map that circles the house that we were talking about. As Jonathan had mentioned, this is a review of the house only, the structure only, not the property or other structures on that property, which is very typical. Last time we did a local designation, it also was for the house only. This structure is called the George E. Bowman House. It was built in 1928. And was referenced in our 2001 intensive survey. It was not referenced in the 2017 survey because of the fact that it just had already been identified as a potential candidate for local, state, and federal designations. It is part of a historic district already, so it's referenced as a contributing building to the state and federal registry for the Randall Avenue Historic District. We did consult with staff of various departments as required by our ordinance. And we also notified residents within 100 feet of the fact that this designation is being considered. At this point in time, we have received no comments to the negative or to objection status. All we have received are notifications that reviews have been completed or that they are in support of that designation. So with that, we recommend that you consider the information and then consider either recommending an approval or a denial to our Common Council. And supposedly this will go to the November 2nd agenda, and if it does, it will include a public hearing followed by action by the council.
Move to approve.
Wow, we still need to have Gene. Well, let's get, we can get a motion first, but actually, let's just wait till Gene presents first. All right, go ahead, Gene.
Okay. Thank you,
Yep.
Jonathan. I'm extremely proud to be able to present to you tonight a request for having the property, the house at 933 Oakdale Avenue, have it nominated and approved for listing as a local landmark. It would be the fourth property within the city that would be listed should this go through and be approved by the HPC tonight, as well as by the Common Council in November. I think what's extremely important is to know that right behind us here on the wall, one of the branding elements that is spoken to by the city of De Pere is rooted in strong values. One of those values that has been paramount within the city for many, many years now has been historic preservation. My wife and I see the opportunity to present to you and later to the Common Council the opportunity to retain the historic value of that house at 933 Oakdale Avenue that is located within a neighborhood that includes the Randall Avenue Historic District. We're extremely proud of it. We have done quite a bit of work in order to maintain the house, both inside and out, and look forward to continuing that process. And should we, at some point in the future, no longer own that house, we see the value that comes from having it listed as a local landmark. We see the value of that in order to be able to have the future owners continue to maintain as well as retain the value of that property. I do want to also point out that one of the elements that's strongly reviewed for properties or houses that are listed as local landmarks is who has lived there in the past. And originally, George Bowman House, we don't know very much after doing some research who George Bowman was, okay? At some point, I'm sure we'll be able to dig up more information. But subsequent to George Bowman living there, the next owners were Jim and B. Martin, who were very, very strong supporters of the city of De Pere. He was very actively involved in the Parks Department, Park Commission, I should say, and actively involved to the nth degree in creating opportunities for young people in the community to get involved in, like Legion Baseball, for instance, or other community sports, actively involved in that. And I just wanted to also point out that living in the house right now with me is another notable figure. Her name is Kathleen Hackbarth, and she co-owns is the current co-owner with me and former elementary school art teacher who spent many years teaching art to Brown County students in adaptive education classes, both at St. Norbert College during the summer young artist workshops and in Green Bay Public Schools. She was the very first person in the United States to earn a Master of Science degree in adaptive education. St. Norbert College presented her with that degree in May of 1996. While in the Green Bay Public School Art Department, she spent countless hours providing her colleagues with adaptive art lesson plans and training sessions. Since then, they have worked to maintain the building while taking advantage of the Wisconsin 25% historic tax credits that's available for 5 categories of building repair. She has been very actively involved in that whole process, along with me and other people who are contractors in the area who work on historic projects. So that's my presentation tonight, and I turn it back to you, Jonathan.
Are there any questions for Gene while he's up here? Otherwise, we can summon him back to the table here. Any questions for Gene? Doesn't look like it? Okay. Thank you very much, Gene, for that presentation.
Do I stay here?
Yeah, and like Peter mentioned, this would be the 4th property if it is approved. We have another single-family residential house on the local register, and then we have Polo Resto and White Pillars. So certainly thank Gene and his wife Kathleen for bringing this forward. And as Gene mentioned, if this was approved, the local register actually provides more protection than if it was on the state or national register, because any alterations to the property would need to come back to HPC to get a certificate of approval to make those alterations. So if we approve this tonight, going forward, any future owner of this house will have to come to the HPC in order to get approval for future alterations. So any discussion on the application or a motion?
I could start the motion if
Okay,
that's
go ahead.
appropriate
Yeah,
for us.
go ahead,
Motion to locally designate the George E. Bowman House, the house only, located at 933 Oakdale Avenue.
I'll second it.
All right. So we have a motion by Adam to locally designate the George E. Bowman House at 933 Oakdale Avenue, and seconded by Mike. Is that all good, Peter? Anything else to add?
I choose to recuse myself
Okay.
from voting.
Yes, definitely. Sounds good. Okay. All right. If no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with Gene abstaining. So this will go forward to the City Council meeting November 2nd. All right, thank you. Item 6, discussion and possible action to request that Wisconsin DOT, WisDOT, or appropriate agency remove 2 heritage signs at the 400 block North Broadway Street and 1 heritage sign at the 900 block North Broadway Street because the signs are cracked, faded, and have reached the end of useful life. You want to just give an overview, Peter?
Sure. It was pointed out to us, and I believe Jonathan brought this to our attention first, that there were a couple of signs on North Broadway that were looking kind of tired, and being the 2 signs that are closest to the bottom of the screen that you're seeing, where there's the 2 yellow stars. We did identify that there also was a 3rd sign that just appeared to be a little bit old and outdated, just because of it being in the weather and in the sun. We attempted to search for the program that allowed these signs to go up. It appears that it was a Wisconsin Department of Transportation program that has come to an end in 2013. So there is no longer funding to have these signs replaced or refurbished. Thus, this request is to have WisDOT remove the signs, and we can then at some point in the future look at alternative signs to be put up in their place, or some third variation of signs to be put up. So what you're voting on tonight, or actually what the statement you'll be making tonight if you approve, is to have us request WisDOT to remove the signs. There's not a replacement part of this request.
Right. Yeah, I think that covers it really well. The guidance we did get from WisDOT is they're not supposed to be replaced. They are supposed to be taken down when they reach the end of their life. So, and as many of you know, Peter and I, over the past year, have been looking at getting signs in each of the 5 residential historic districts. We initially got a Wisconsin Historical Society grant for that, but it was ultimately determined that it wasn't an eligible expense, so we transferred that to the historic walking tour. But that is still certainly a goal of ours going into next year, is to eventually get those signs up. So we could have our own signs then to cover that. All right, discussion on this item?
The only thing I would say, when they come down, is there a way that we can retain them rather than throw them away, or is it something the Historical Society would want, or?
Peter?
When I reach out to WisDOT, I don't even know what they'll say. They may say we don't even take these down anymore.
Right.
When they do take them down, I will ask that they drop them off at City Hall at my office so that we can do what we wish with them.
Does the Historical Society still put up these same type of signs, or, more historical?
Signs of this nature are no longer put up under the program that it originally was created. Signs that you're thinking of, perhaps like the larger plaque Wisconsin Historical Society signs, kind of like the one we see in the lawn of White Pillars, that program is still ongoing.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. The historic marker is still there for White Pillars, so even if this gets taken down.
Usually you go along the highways, you see all these signs, done by the Wisconsin Historical Society, brown and white signs.
Yeah, the signs that we're talking about tonight, this was part of a program that was facilitated by Wisconsin Department of Transportation to encourage knowledge and awareness of heritage. And I believe it was actually called something like that, Heritage Sign Program. Yes. And that's the program that has come to an end in 2013.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I would make a motion that we request that city staff contact WisDOT to remove the 2 heritage signs at the 400 block North Broadway and the 1 heritage sign at the 900 block North Broadway Street.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Awesome. All right, we got a motion by Gene to request that Wisconsin DOT or the appropriate agency remove 2 heritage signs at the 400 block of North Broadway Street and 1 heritage sign at the 900 block of North Broadway Street, and then seconded by Noah. Any other discussion? I just want to thank Gene as well for helping us track down who put these signs up. So he reached out to his contact at the Wisconsin Historical Society, Fitzy Hemdahl, who's the State Historic Markers Program Coordinator, and she was able to finally give us the information we were looking for, because nobody seemed to want to claim them initially. So, and then she also gave us these contacts from WisDOT that we can reach out to. So,
Do we have any of these signs anywhere else in the city?
Not that I'm aware of. Peter, are you aware of any other location?
We're not aware of them being in other locations. If we do find them, we will just go ahead and ask them to also be brought down.
Perfect.
Yeah, like there's the Randall district and the North Michigan / Superior districts right next to it, but apparently they never had signs put up for those. It was just this neighborhood. So,
yeah, because it was part of a state highway program, my assumption is they will be located on state highways.
Sure.
And this is the primary stretch of historic district neighborhood historic districts where there would be the potential for these signs to be. But if we do come across one, we simply will just ask to have them taken down.
And as I recall, in the early days of the Wisconsin Main Street program, which started in 1990, there was a strong effort by the DOT to bring these types of signs on main corridors that led people to the downtown areas, okay? And the heritage element would be brought up to light.
All right, any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And item 7. Discussion and possible action to create a scheduled work plan for projects to complete in 2023. So in the fall of every year, we like to bring this forward, a list of priorities for next year. So Peter, if you want to kind of go through some of the priorities that are already in the draft budget for next year.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. You're exactly correct. Every year I have to put together a budget for this organization. It's relatively the same amount every year, so that part's really easy. But I do also have to identify some of our accomplishments each year and goal accomplishments for the next year. So what you do see on the screen is what I put in your booklet of information for tonight's meeting. The list of promises that I've made in the draft budget of what we will be accomplishing. Some of them are very similar from year to year, like the first two, having 2 educational programs. Typically one is done during Historic Preservation Month in May, and then one is completed by the end of the year. Doesn't mean we have to do the second one at the end of the year. That can be done anytime during the year. The Certificate of Appropriateness updates is something that I added in, assuming that we're going to make a greater reach for local designations. We have a COA application form that I created a couple of years ago, but it isn't followed by something that gives a really solid directive of what does the ordinance mean. So you and I are very familiar with our ordinance. We flip open, we understand what 58-5 means, but general public will have a hard time understanding that. And I'm hoping that what we can do is create some kind of a guide that says, -5 of our code means this, -6 means this, and then create some examples so that somebody who is filling out a certificate of appropriateness application form is not intimidated by it. We can actually help coach them through what type of information we'll be looking for at this meeting when they come for those approvals. The finding state and federal designation properties, that's something we've been doing for several years now since we did the update to the 2017 listing of historic potential properties. I did add in the finding 3 commercial and 3 residential local designated properties. We did kind of receive a nudge to start looking for a few more of those properties on the local end and not just on the state federal end.
And Peter, I think you jumped over the historic district signage.
Oh, the historic signage for newer historic
Yep.
districts. I apologize about that. Yeah, that's for the 2 historic districts that we had designated about a year ago, or actually just in the last couple of months. Or was it a year ago? Gosh, I'm losing track of time. We have not gone through the process of offering signage to those 2 districts. That's what this line item is for, is to make sure that we remember to offer historic signage. It is kind of a cost share project where we pay for part of the cost, the property owner pays for part of the cost. And that's to make sure that we do offer that benefit to those property owners who might want a historic sign on their property. Then next is making sure that we submit a letter of intent and formally apply for a CLG grant. That would be particularly important if we did find 1, 2, or 3 potential state or federal designations, because that grant can help to cover those designation costs. And then at the end of the year, I just listed that second of 2 educational programs in case we choose to do them at 2 different times of year rather than doing them both in May. Then with this, I'm hoping that you saw the email that Kelly had sent out to everyone, encouraging you to be prepared with lists of things that we could potentially add to this, so that we don't overwhelm ourselves with doing everything in 1 month, and we can spread it out through the year. I will make a point that if you notice, the calendar seems like it's kind of starting 4 or 5 months into the year. That is intentionally that way because the city is proposing a new zoning code and a new comprehensive plan, which comes out of my office. And there's going to be a lot of learning factor for our staff to get used to and familiar with using those two documents on a very regular daily basis. So that's why I have the majority of our projects kind of starting that 4th and 5th month into the year, because my assumption is I'm going to be spending a lot of time getting used to my own zoning code for those first couple months of 2023. Doesn't mean we can't have a project. My suggestion would be that if we do have one at the beginning of the year, that it'd be a very light and easy project.
All right, thank you for that, Peter. Just a couple of notes quick. For the historical district signage, definitely I like the idea of reaching out to those 2 new neighborhoods. We also had a resident, Peggy Bray, 403 South Michigan, that requested one. And then I think you had talked to a business owner on Main Ave about getting a sign replaced or something. Was that right?
Yes, there are 2 signs that we are aware of in addition to those 2 neighborhood signs. Those are earmarked to be included with this request.
Okay.
To keep it cost effective, we would just run them all at the same time.
Yep. All right. Does anyone have other suggestions for things you'd like to see next year?
Could I just make a comment on this?
Go ahead.
And forgive me, Jonathan, because I'm new to this commission. So what is the status of these action items? Is there anything in the works on, for example, like the educational programs, for the, July 31st deadline? I'm assuming the 933 Oakdale Avenue property, assuming it's approved by the Common Council, will count as one of those 3 residential properties. So is this something that we're, kind of brainstorming right now? I just want to make sure that something isn't already in the works on these points.
Yeah, great question. Go ahead, Peter.
This is actually for 2023. The 933
sure.
Oakdale is actually part of our 2022 projects.
that'll
In 2022, we actually did kind of a mass education and training at the St. Norbert College for how to acquire and use historic tax credits. We did it as a seminar in one of the conference centers rooms of St. Norbert College, and we opened it up not only to De Pere but also to Alloway and Green Bay, who also have a certified local government status. And it was a really nice program, and that's what counted as our 2 educational programs for 2022. So what you see on this list are 2 programs for 2023 to be determined.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, and to that point, though, Peter, so this year we did the seminar at St. Norbert College for the local credits. I think in years past we've always done 1 educational/heritage program. Have we done 2 in the past, or?
We oftentimes have done 1. There have been occasions where we've done a smaller scale second program.
Okay.
Oftentimes they related to things like educating how to replace or restore windows.
Yes.
That would have counted as one of our educational programs.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and then also building off what Noah said about the 3 properties for potential state, federal, and local, we did reach out to them, a number of them this year. Unfortunately, we did not get any response from any of the properties we reached out to. So definitely something we'll need to be brainstorming next year and seeing maybe if some of the ones that were sent a couple years ago, if they need a follow-up letter, that kind of thing. So. Other suggestions for next year? Gene?
I just want to follow up on the virtual historic building tour.
That's right, yeah.
That is still in the process of being developed.
Yes.
Is it possible that sometime in 2023 that could get a great rollout within the community?
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter, if you want to take that.
Yeah, that project is being timed with the unveiling of definitely De Pere's new website, because it does sit under their website.
Right.
That's why the timing that we were hoping was going to be a little bit earlier in this year is ending up being a little bit later in this year. unfortunately. But yeah, we will be able to utilize our city's mass media to announce that it is, that it is unrolled and in full effect and operational. We also plan on doing that when Definitely De Pere unveils their website.
Okay. Okay. So we do not have a definitive date set for that being rolled out.
No, we did, because we want to make sure that the full site operates, because nothing is worse than telling people that it's there and then watch it collapse.
Sure.
Yeah, and I know definitely De Pere's had some issues on the IT side, getting it launched and everything, getting all the kinks worked out. So, but yeah, there'll definitely be opportunities once it gets launched too for us to expand the historic walking tour, add more information, and that'd be a good opportunity for HBC members to be part of that effort. So,
Yeah, and the kinks are not related to the tour. It's related to their full website.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. All right. I think that's just a discussion or possible action. Do you want us to just approve this list then, Peter?
You can approve the list as is. You can add to the list. You can
Okay.
remove from the list. The intent of this was to kind of be a working agenda item, where that's how I've kind of gone back into editing mode, and I would simply have added items if you wished me to add them to this list.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the list and then also adding Peggy Bray's house, Peggy and Gerald Bray, 403 South Michigan, and then that property on Main Ave that we're aware of for the historic district signage.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by myself and seconded by Gene to approve the list with the aforementioned addition to the historic district signage. Any other discussions? All right, if not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And that takes us to item 8, adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn by Gene and seconded by Mike. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.